Okay, it's 6:30, are we ready? Call meeting to order?
Yes.
Okay, I'd like to call the Baldwin City Council work session for May 7th to order. We have no public hearings this evening. Under old business, our first item is our CAO FY25 contract. And I sent everybody some information last night or early this morning, kind of comparative data on what other, well, first we want to know, Ms. Woodmaster, do you want to be considered for this again? Okay.
We're still a little high blood.
It's gonna get that out.
Asking that like
We're gonna make this decision with
You
my.
Yeah, right. Okay, so last night I was able to send the council some comparative information that we have been working on from last year. It's in your email. I looked at some other salaries through Gov Salaries, reached out to other mayors to see what folks were making. And remember too, EMI did a salary study for us last year. So, and Councilwoman Venter was talking about this last week, or about last meeting. And we had a low range, a medium range, and a higher range. And you can see where other city administrators fall within that range. So conversation, you've had time to look at her contract. It was last year's contract that needs to be updated.
Yeah.
Yes, I see it.
So we, yeah, cause there was like the 12,000 and change that was the carryover to the difference, yeah, that's, we took that out. But we did, I feel like we did a really good job last year in looking at other contracts with other, city managers, and, well, she's chief administrative officer. We looked at the county, we looked at Cornelia. Cornelia was a really big one, I think, that helped model this. And so it's worked so far. You feel like it's worked okay for you? Okay, good. And one of the things when they did the wage salary, bless you, hate when they have the most inopportune time. The midpoint was, the low point was $85,000. The midpoint was 106 and some change, and then the high was 130,000. I think Cornelia's manager is the highest paid in the county. Am I right?
Well, the
And
info,
longest tenure.
And longest tenure too.
the info that I had though was from 2020. I mean, we're looking at a FY 2025. And so in 2020, according to Gov Salary, that position in Cornelia was slated for, 129.9.
Oh,
So
yeah.
I don't have an update.
If I remember correctly, last year when I called, I actually emailed Dee, and he said that he sent me a copy of his contract, and I believe it was like 134 or 135. And so, you know, Clarksville, of course, Clarksville's much smaller, and I think they have way fewer services than we do. So you found out that he's at, their manager's at 91,440, yeah, yes.
But that was 2021.
And that was 2021,
All right, so paying attention to the dates
Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, yes. And now, and so my concern is that we do what we did last time, and we were trying to fix some things, so that, you know, our CAO graciously did not ask for anything so that she could get the people under her management corrected first, which I think is a very noble thing to do. The problem with that was that when it was time to do the correction to the CAO's salary, is that it was such a large jump into the public that looked really, I mean, they're still ragging us about it, but it was just because there was a humongous misunderstanding. So I don't want to let that happen again. And, you know, I think a 20% jump of a 20% increase would be kind of, we've got some other things that we're working on in the budget, but and this is just me that was running numbers through my head. I think that a 10% increase to her, because she's still lower than the midpoint at this point, or when we did this last year, according to the study. So I think a 10% increase would be reasonable, you know, and that's, we still have to do a review. And actually speaking with some of the council members, I think that there was a desire, correct me if I'm wrong, guys, but there's a desire for all of us to kind of do this, performance review, if you'd be okay with that. Yeah.
And
Sorry, good.
just adding to what Councilwoman Bencher said, so the CAO position, and I had our city clerk include our org chart here.
Yes.
So for the new folks too, they can see that the CAO position, whoever's sitting there, answers to mayor and council. So doing that collective review makes sense because she answers to all of us.
I didn't even think about it that way, so you're exactly right, yeah.
I'm sorry.
Think of it as a parole hearing.
Parole hearing.
You know, this actually brings up something that until I became a council member, I did not think about. And when you're in the private sector, you don't see this as often as you do in the public sector. Like our police department and our fire department, we kept on scaling back on hiring, kept on scaling back on salaries. And when we finally got to a position where we said, okay, this can't go on, we found ourselves at a severe disadvantage because we had to hire so many more people all of a sudden and increase their salaries so much at one time that it looked like we were a power group.
Yeah.
But we had to do that in order to maintain the services for our citizens. And it's the same thing, you know, if we don't keep up with this, especially in light of the way the economy is now, 2-3 years down the road, regardless of who's in that position, where are we then? Now we gotta make this huge jump, just like we did last year, and we're looking like the bad guys at the end of the day. And that's not, I shouldn't have said that because that doesn't really matter. I don't care looking like the bad guy, as long as we're doing the right thing. And I'm of the mind that, you know, it's 20% ahead of the budget is a bit of a hard sell, but 10%, I'm sure I can live with, if everybody's in agreement, especially the person that had to get it.
Well, the mayor had a really good point then, last year when we were going over this, as well as you made the point in our last meeting talking about this, is that what does it cost to replace a chief administrative officer? So I've always said, you pay peanuts, you get monkeys, and so if we're paying peanuts, we're gonna get monkeys, and we've had enough of those. So, and you know, what would it cost for us to replace our chief administrative officer? Probably more than that, according to our case study of comparable cities. So, our chief administrative officer, as you can see from the org chart, here's us up at the top, us nobodies. This is the chief administrative officer and all of the department heads and that she manages, who also manages these people down here. In addition to all of the services. Now, last year, we got a little bit into the weeds and we talked about, well, you know, our chief Emily does, you know, our accounting. She's our billing supervisor. She's our finance director. She also fills all of these other positions that right now we can't afford to fill. The pay increase that she got last year and the pay increase that we're talking about this year does not reflect or take those positions into consideration. It's only for chief administrative officer. We're just lucky enough that she does a great job with all of those. And we also recognize that as we go into the future, that we are going to be bringing those positions in as we can afford them to take that burden off of her plate so that she can do the things that she was meant to do. She was built to build communities, and we're very fortunate to have her. I'm kidding.
But remember too, it's a complicated situation because we have to present a balanced budget. So whatever we do salary wise above and beyond the COLA to get her to where she's supposed to be has to be built into our budget. And when we had retreat for 2.5 days together, right, we were talking to department heads and their needs. But, so we have a budget concern. We have a staffing concern here, as Councilwoman Venter says, that right now the CAO position is filling too many other positions. Okay, so we need to think about at what point do we start filling those positions as well, which brings us back to budget, okay? Which brings us back to our millage rate. You know, in those kinds of conversations, Martin, you said, sorry, Councilman Venter, you said from the dais over and over again, we've been fixing years of problems.
Oh, yeah.
Right, with salaries that weren't increased, with staffing that wasn't adequate, you know, for a growing city. So we have quite a bit to think about right now, you know, God forbid she gets hit by a bus. You know,
Don't get in front of any buses, the rain.
you know.
Oh, yeah, that
You know.
golden transport system.
She does come out of the office occasionally, right? So,
The litter out of
you know, and this is the situation for the new council people that we face. If CAO Woodmaster were to walk away from the city, then we have to fill her position, a finance position, an HR position, right? So as we think about this, it is more complicated than just her salary and compensation. All right. So, are we in agreement that we're gonna keep her? Well, maybe, I mean, but we'd like to do that performance review officially, we need to work that out. I mean, if your sentiment is you wanna stay on here, we'll, you know, take this seriously.
I think that would probably, if that's, if, you know, there's several people with full-time jobs that work during the day, would it be possible for us to do that in the evening? At sometime when everybody's off work, would that be okay with you? Just so that, huh? I know, I didn't wanna say that.
All
But
weekends,
you-
right?
Yeah, or on a weekend, yeah, you know, come to your house, I mean, you know, what we could do.
Just so the media knows that, Councilman Satterfield is on his honeymoon. He's not shirking responsibilities this evening.
It's good for him.
So our meeting is the 14th, and she's gonna be leaving on the 15th.
Okay, okay. So,
So we only have,
We have
A week.
council, yeah, we have council on the 13th that night. We could have an executive session that night for personnel.
Budget hearing is on the 14th.
and right, but yeah,
Uh-huh.
yes.
Well, town hall.
A town hall, yeah.
Tuesday, yeah. So we should have a review, salary, everything
Yeah.
done by next Tuesday.
Yes.
Well, I will call in from wherever I am.
Yeah.
I fly out tomorrow.
Oh, you gotta leave
Yeah, I leave tomorrow,
When do you return?
Sunday.
On Sunday. Oh, okay.
Okay,
I mean, what's happening on the 13th?
I was
Our
gonna say,
council
so you're
meeting.
coming,
Council meeting?
but it's at 6:30, right?
Yeah.
So could we do it prior to? or
Like
is that
as
too
an
early?
executive
As
session?
long as you put the agenda right.
I know, right, yeah. I think we could do that, we don't
You
have
want
a
me
whole
at
lot of
6?
time.
I mean, I don't think that it's going to be a terribly long review.
No, I don't think so, I can't imagine that being.
I think that the executive session might be an appropriate venue for that.
Oh, what do you think? You think is that,
That's what I'm looking at.
is it kosher? Okay, he's checking on it for us.
Well, it's for personnel.
Yeah. And no decisions were made.
Okay, well, we can, you know, we'll let Bubba check that out. and see that.
I think the answer is yes.
Yes,
Okay.
okay. executive session for personnel.
Y'all mentioned it before the meeting or in the regular
I
meeting?
think in the regular meeting.
In the regular meeting, okay.
And that way folks who work can get here on time.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, thanks everybody for being amenable to that.
Yeah.
Which leads us right into our second item, which is FY '25 budget timeline. Ms. Woodhouse starts.
That's right, I hear you.
Yeah. I feel like it's like, how do we get here so fast?
Listen,
It's not even
What,
right.
6
I can't
months
tell
ago?
you. I can't tell you.
Yeah,
We just set the budget and we're done.
we just, right. It comes way too fast, and it ain't because we're having fun either. Yeah.
So in your packet on page 9, good evening.
Good evening.
Just came out the gate talking. You do have in your packet on page 9, the timeline for the remainder of the budget cycle. Obviously, at our council retreat, we did discuss all of the department's budgets. Our town hall for the public's input is on this coming Tuesday, right, a week from today.
Yeah.
And then on May 17th, we'll have the hearing notice placed in the Northeast Georgian, same thing on the 24th. And then our budget hearing will be set for June 4th with proposed adoption on June 10th. We do have until the end of the month to adopt it, so if there's any changes that need to be made or modifications, we can do that. But the goal is to have it adopted by June 10th, so we have time to input it into the system.
Yes. And the budget process actually starts in January, doesn't it?
The end of January.
I think
Yeah.
that maybe that's why it feels like it's every 6 months, because it is.
It is, it really is.
Yeah, yeah.
It does have to be balanced, by the time we present it to the public. At the town hall, it does not, because this is a conversation with the people, what services you want, do you want us to cut anything?
Yeah.
And we'll get it as close as we can to balance, with the explanation of if nothing changes, this is the direction we're headed. But then, at that hearing on June 4th, there will be a balanced budget. And we do that for both our general fund and our enterprise funds. So, they're presented at the same time, but they are separate budgets.
Yeah. So this is where we got to, definitely, have we had any, anyone, no feedback, nobody saying they're coming to the hearing?
Not that I've heard. I've not heard anything from John here in Cisco, so.
Can you guys get some people here? Oh, you know, I'll just do a live video.
There you go.
Yeah, we had like 3,000 people in
There
the
you go.
last one, yeah.
Tell them to come.
I mean, look there,
We
yeah.
wanna hear from them.
Yeah, you know, yeah, I think that's it. Duh.
And we'll post what is being presented on Tuesday.
Yeah,
We'll put that on the website so that people who can't attend, they can at least look through it. And if they have any questions, they can submit their questions.
okay.
If they ask questions after the town hall, we'll just do our best to answer them as they come in.
Yeah.
But we wanna hear from everyone.
Yeah, okay, that's important, to see people out there.
Okay. All right, any questions, Ms. Woodmaster, on the timeline?
No, I'm glad that there's a little bit of a cushion in there, just in case we have to move something around, so, that's,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay, next item also, Ms. Woodmaster, PTO supplement for exempt employees.
This is a fun one. So, we do have salaried employees in the city, all of our department heads, and then there's a couple, in our finance and then our city clerk, that are salaried positions. They are exempt by FLSA standards, meaning they don't get overtime. So they still earn PTO at the same rate that everyone else does. They accrue it, along with our tiers that everyone else does. However, whenever they're going on vacation, if they're working 2 days out of the week and then they're leaving Wednesday through Friday, they're still entitled to their full week's pay. So I brought this before, I talked to all of our department heads and all of our salary employees, and then I brought it to our policy manual committee to see if there was any questions, comments, concerns, if I could explain it the best way that I knew how. But I talked with all of them about eliminating that and just entitling our salaried employees to vacation. So if you are a salaried employee, it's the expectation that you get your job done in this number of hours in a year, and you get 2 weeks of vacation, take them when you want them. And if you don't take them, that's also on you, because you're responsible for your own time. But we're also expecting that you get your job done in the time allotted in that, within that salary. So the proposal tonight, there's 3 pages, but it's really just addressing 3 sections that talk about exempt employees. On the first page, page 10 is the actual policy and creating a vacation allowance for salaried employees. So instead of them accruing a biweekly PTO rate, it's just entitled to them upon arrival in their position. They can take it whenever they need to. They just have to notify their supervisor that they are leaving. They can't just disappear. Gotta know where people are. And they would still earn the vacation allowance that a non-exempt employee would receive, the same tiers. So 1 to 3 years is 80 hours, 3 to 8 years is 120, and so on and so forth. So they're not losing anything by converting to this program, except for the first year, because they're not losing in the first year. The first year of its implementation, I'm proposing that we build their salary up to what they're losing. Because in the event, for example, if a department head were to leave and they had 120 hours banked, we would pay them 120 hours PTO. That's eliminated here because we're expecting that you take your vacation. And so they're losing that if we don't compensate them for the time off in their salary. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I am proposing that we pay out the salary bank or the PTO banks that exist today at the end of the fiscal year, once everything is accrued, and then we would pay that out at the rate of the closeout of the fiscal year. And then the new budget will contemplate all of the salaries with their equivalent PTO match. So whatever they were entitled to, if it's 80 hours at their hourly rate, that's what's getting added to their salary. It's only gonna happen this first year, and then the only other time a salary would change is if their vacation bank changed. So if they go from 80 to 120 hours, that's gonna be built in to their salary in that calendar year. I know that was like a lot at one time, but the other 2 PTO amendment or policy manual amendments is just to eliminate comp time. Because, well, I think some of you were here for our comp time debacle a couple of years ago. Our original policy had salary employees earning comp time at 1.5 times. And so if you worked 50 hours in 1 week, we expected that you only worked 30 hours the next, but then you also gained extra time, and so then you had to offset that. Well, in our small government, it is near impossible to use comp time. I think Aaron would happily attest to that.
Yeah.
It's hard to keep track of, and it's hard to take because you just want to get your job done. And so being expected to I have to stop right now and I have to walk out because comp time says I'm going to lose this time if I don't. It's difficult. And you would find most of our department heads just don't do it. They're like, I'll lose it, it's fine. And so we reduced it to hour for hour a couple of years ago when we first started working on the policy manual, and now I'm proposing that for salary employees we take that out entirely. We expect upon arrival in your position that you get your job done. And if they need additional staff, that's up to their supervisor or the CAO to ensure that they get the staff that they need because they're not taking their vacation or they're staying until 9, 10, 11, or 12 o'clock at night.
So we document that. We quantify it.
So the other 2, so that's the second one, and then the third one is just to clean up some language that talks about an exempt employee and what allowances they're allowed to have. Any questions? I know there's 3 policy amendments, but it's really all about the same thing. And once we're done with this, if the council chooses to adopt this, we are prepared to submit a new policy manual for review.
Wow. 5 years in the making.
I know.
Yeah.
It's come a long way. Still also go through legal, but we haven't changed anything. We've just taken some stuff out, so it'll be an easy read for him.
Yes.
Light evening reading.
Yeah.
Smooth the rocks a little.
Just so wordy and thick and, you know, what's that
Yeah.
principle, the KISS principle, keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah, and some of it is just it's very hard to administrate with the number of staff that we have. It's just
And then with the staff, we're gonna go and read the policy manual, which we asked them to do.
and sign it.
It's, yeah, it's gonna be.
It's a lot, especially for new employees.
Yeah.
When I talk to them about it, I'm like, look, read this over. I know you got to sign it, but then read it again and ask questions because there's a lot in there that you might not understand, or it's not relevant to you until you need it.
Yeah.
And then you go and you have to go find the book that you got, which we do digital copies now. So it's a lot easier than the spiral bound that we have. That as soon as we changed it, it was no good. But any
Mr.
questions?
Ambassador, the only thing that I would ask on the first page, page 10, on the little chart, where it says vacation allowance total, put 80 hours.
Yes, I can do that.
120 hours, 160 hours.
I think it's there in the Excel piece. I think it's just.
It just went wrong.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll get that added back for sure.
Just a question, the number of hours,
Mhm.
trying to figure out how to ask this. Is it comparable to other municipalities or?
Yeah, it's the same PTO schedule that we've always had. The only difference in this one versus 5 years ago is we added those two bottom tiers.
Okay.
So we used to, and because it looks the same for a non-exempt employee, but until a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, I think it's either way, a year or two ago, we used to cap out at 15 years. So once you worked for the city at 15 years or more, everything was the same at 160 hours. You never actually got more than that. And so 2 years ago, we changed that to those who work more than 30 years, they have additional time.
Yeah, especially with some of the
Yeah.
employees that we have.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I worked with a guy at IBM that was 34 years, and he took every Friday of every week off for a whole year. Drove us nuts.
Yeah, yeah.
How many employees do we have who have 30 plus years?
Two.
Yeah.
Mhm. And then our second closest is at 20 years.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
And then between her and the next longest
Yeah.
is 15, 13?
Yeah.
13.
Because my point was, we don't have 45 people who are at.
That's
30
correct.
years.
We do not.
Are we comfortable bringing this to council Monday night? Yes, yes, okay, right. And thank you to the personnel, or the handbook committee, what's it called?
Policy committee.
Policy handbook.
Yes.
Thank you to that committee. Our committees meet at night, so, people work all day and then come in later on to meet. So we've got the 365 committee, the 441 committee, the handbook committee, the water group. So just so you know, we're not just here for an hour and then gone. So, thank you, Ms. Woodmaster, for
Yes.
letting us through that.
Yeah.
Okay, that's it on our agenda. We'll move into announcements. The city will host a town hall meeting for the FY 2025 budget on Monday, Tuesday, May 14th, 6:30 PM at Baldwin Farmers Market at 110 Airport Road. We invite citizens to ask questions, meet department heads and staff, and discuss the future of Baldwin. Item B, calling all local farmers and foodies. Join us this Saturday for the very first Refresh Market. Bring your fruits, vegetables, farm fresh eggs, other goods to City Hall for a free place to sell your fresh staples. From 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., get in the sunshine for fresh groceries, unique food truck eateries. Vendor applications can be found at www.cityofbaldwin.org, or you can contact John at City Hall for more information. And then the last item of business, oh no, it's not the last one. Join us for Movies in the Market on May 24th, starting at 8:30. What are we watching that night? Do we know?
Moana.
Oh.
What is it?
Moana.
Moana, okay.
Yes.
Bring your lawn chairs, blankets, join us for a free night of fun at the farmer's market located at 110 Airport Road. notice, this month we're gonna be showing Moana, there it is,
Yeah,
thank you.
it was in the corner, yeah.
Concessions are available, all proceeds going to Shop with a Hero. Yeah, thanks to everybody who came out, earlier this month or late last month, we had a really good showing. About 50 people came out, break the cold and make a little money for Shop with the Hero, it was great. Okay, just a notice, city offices will be closed May 27th in observance of Memorial Day. Very good. Any announcements from council? Any announcements from staff? Hearing none, I need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Venture, I need a second.
Second.
A second from everybody, from Councilman Keith, we are adjourned. Oh, so all those in favor?
Aye.
We're adjourned.
Even if like you do it